Well, you asked for it and I am delivering. This is the Giovanni Mpetshi Perricard serve analysis. Can't wait to show you some really foundational ideas that he has on a serve, but some unique aspects as well. Now, this video footage is courtesy of Court Level Tennis on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to their awesome channel. I've put their link in the description below. Now, the beginning of Giovanni's serve is very classic. He's got his weight on his front foot. He's looking at the target. You'll also notice that his racket face is open. This is an indicator that he has the continental grip. Now, of course, he's going to have a continental. But what I want you to do with your own game is just look at your racket when you're beginning and just make sure that your strings are facing up. That'll let you know if you have a forehand grip or if you got a continental. If you have a forehand grip, your strings will actually be facing down or just even slightly down. You want your racket face open to let you know that your grip is correct. Now, you'll see that his weight transfers back and he's got this toe up, right? Not all pros do this. Not all pros have their toe point up when they rock their weight back. In fact, this is in contrast to J.J. Wolf, another big server, can serve in the mid-30s. Watch how his front toe does not come up. In fact, he does what I often teach people, which is to actually pivot, moving the heel closer to the baseline to allow for more coiling. So you'll see that Perricard has his toe come up, very Sampras-like, and then back down, where J.J. Wolf just pivots on the ball of his foot. So now let's look at his eyes, because you have got to control where you're looking throughout the serve. There are two places you should look. You should look at the box, and then you should look at the toss. But you want to look at the box, and specifically the target, for as long as possible. So he's still looking, he's rocked back with weight on the back foot, he's still looking at the target, and then as he releases the ball, now he finally looks up. I've had students on court who they're looking at the ground, they're looking over there, they're not looking anywhere. Sometimes people close their eyes. I mean that. You have got to look at your target and stare at it at the beginning parts of your serve. And then when you release the ball, then look up. It's going to help you to understand where you are in space and where the target is. And the longer you look at the box prior to releasing the ball, you will be so much more accurate with your serves. Now let's look at his toss height. He has a very low toss, and it forces a quick action, right? If you toss low, you have very little time to swing, so it creates the environment for more racket speed. But let's actually see how high he tosses. Now, the way to do this is to make sure that the ball is near the top of the head, and then we put a timer down, and we run the timer until contact. And what we should see is that his toss timing from now until contact should be somewhere between 0.6 and 0.9 seconds. If he hits the ball before 0.6, we'll say that his toss is too low. And if he hits the ball, sorry, didn't mean to have that happen. If he hits the ball after 0.9, then we'll say that his toss is too high. So let's run the timer and see how long it takes for him to contact the ball. Boom, 0.65. Same as J.J. Wolf, by the way. So when you have a toss that is this low, you'll see that the ball barely drops, makes it really easy to time it, right? Like if you have a Sabalenka toss and you toss it, like her toss timing is 1.36. 1.36, by the way. That's crazy, right? That's twice as long as Perricard. When you toss the ball that high, which I would not recommend for recreational players, it becomes very difficult to time because you have to wait for that ball to drop. And as it drops, it accelerates. Very hard to hit the window of opportunity and hit the sweet spot. So you're better off tossing lower so that it forces you to swing fast and it's actually easier to time and to hit the sweet spot. Next, let's look at his wrist, his hitting wrist, as he lifts the racket. You'll notice, and it's unique, you'll notice that he has this curl. Now you get Kyrgios doing this a bit. You got Djokovic doing this a bit, but Perricard really does it late, right? Like his hand is up by his ear and he still has this dramatic wrist curl. Remember, he tosses low. So he uses with this technique something called ball up, tip down. By curling the wrist as he lifts the racket, he lengthens the distance that the racket still needs to travel to get to the ball. And we know that speed is a measurement of distance over time. So he's only giving himself 0.66 seconds from this moment right there to make contact. So by keeping the wrist curled, he's delaying the knock the birthday hat off technique up to the ball. And all that does is, like, have you ever been late to work or late to the dentist or late to school? What do you got to do? You got to drive fast. So he's making his racket late so that the racket has to travel that much faster, and it adds to his ability to hit the serve very hard. So when you lift your racket up, try having the tip of the racket point a similar direction as your chest, but do so by having the wrist a bit curled. What you'll notice is it's less likely that you're going to go into the waiter's tray position. It's going to be much easier. You can see his strings are pointing down. This look, by the way, is very much like Raonic. Milos Raonic, holy smokes, with the strings down and this type of wrist curl, very familiar with Raonic. But in fact, if Perricard looked at his racket, he could see himself in the mirror. That's kind of the idea, right? Knocking out the birthday hat from front to back. This is also called right to left. When you film yourself from the back as a right-hander, the racket should go from right to left. On the screen, it's the fastest way to move the racket using a throwing motion. But boy, oh boy, do I love that wrist curl. It's something that I try to do on my own serve, and it really helps you to lengthen the distance that your racket has to travel. And when you couple that with a low toss, you are going to blast serves. On to his leg drive. So something that's interesting, and maybe you didn't realize, is when players use a pinpoint stance, the moment the back foot plants, that's when they explode up. So you got to make sure that that is what you're doing, because I would say only about half of the rec players I've seen in the last 27 years of coaching do that. A lot of times players will step, but then they'll just sit there in the step and they'll just kind of get cooked in the squat, and you can't have an explosive leg drive. So when you bring the back foot up, that's when your knees are bending. Right? So look, like here he's standing pretty tall, but as he brings the back foot up, that's when his knees are bending. And as soon as his right foot hits the ground, he explodes up. Now, let's look at where his racket is when his foot hits the ground, which is where he's going to start, exploding up. If we look at this as a right-hander and we just use a clock, right? So here would be 12 o'clock. We can see that his racket is at about 1 o'clock. When you explode up with your body, and this is on a pinpoint stance and a platform, it doesn't matter, you need to explode up before you hit the birthday hat. And I'll say as late as you hit the birthday hat. What you don't want to happen is that the racket drops behind you. Remember that right to left technique I was talking about? Like this right here. I see 80% of rec players, when serving, their racket has already hit the birthday hat and already begun dropping, sometimes all the way down before the legs drive up. And really, coaches call that the early racket drop, but I'm going to call it the late leg drive. And it's not the racket's fault. It's not like you have to hold the racket here. What you want to do is toss lower so that your legs are forced to drive up earlier, so that your legs are driving up before you hit the birthday hat. So if you find that when you film yourself serving, if you find that your racket's down here behind you, you're not going to maximize the benefit of the leg drive. And the fix for that is to toss lower, forcing your legs to drive up while the racket is still in front of hitting the birthday hat. But really cool to see that he is driving his legs up before he hits the birthday hat. The benefit of that is that maximizes the racket going down with the body going up. You get this amazing shoulder stretch. And again, that's one more idea that's going to help you blast your serves. Next, let's talk about the birthday hat idea, because if you are not going out and practicing wearing a party hat or a birthday hat on your head and having the strings down and knocking the birthday hat off your head, you're missing out on free power, because the serve is a circular motion. Watch his racket follow that line. There's a circular motion to the serve. And the circular motion occurs when your strings face down. It's called palm down, right? And the racket passes in over the head, drawing that circle to go to the ball. Most rec players have too much of a waiter's tray position. And that occurs when your racket does not pass in over the head. So if you wear a birthday hat on your head, there's the string under his chin. If you wear a physical birthday hat and you work on hitting the party hat from front to back, you'll actually knock the party hat off your head from front to back. Look at Kyrgios. Look at Djokovic. Look at Sam Groth. Look at Naomi Osaka. Look at Roger Federer. Look at Rafael Nadal. They would all knock the birthday hat off their head. That is the best way as a rec player to get rid of your waiter's tray and to learn the circular nature to the swing. I want you to wear a physical birthday hat. That's why I make so many videos on the topic. Wear a physical birthday hat on your head. Learn the circular motion, and circles are a powerful and fast shape. Now let's talk about the swing leading up to the contact and then just after contact. So he's got the classic racket dropping down as the elbow drives up. Watch his elbow drive up. So he's not driving up with his hand. He's driving up with the elbow. So the elbow goes up as the racket goes down. That's the throwing motion. The elbow and the racket go in opposite directions. Here is a great view of his strings being ever so slightly closed. This is a result of the continental grip and also the racket path that he has. The racket is actually slightly closed as he goes to hit the ball. It's a very supinated position, and that forces him to then pronate to make contact. Here his strings are facing off to the left as a right-hander, and now his strings are facing off forward toward his target. You'll see as he strikes that his arm and racket are not in a straight line, and that is exactly what it should be. You do not want your arm and racket in a straight line at contact. The most powerful way to pronate as you're hitting the ball is to have the racket actually pass slightly to the inside of your hand. So inside meaning here's his arm, and the yellow line is the extension of his arm, but the racket's this way, which is to the inside. And as a right-hander, that's to the left. Film yourself serving and make sure that your arm and racket are not in a straight line. You will be doing it like Perricard. You'll be doing it like Isner. That's the most powerful way to pronate as you're getting a lot of tension, and not bad tension. It's not what I mean by like stress and tightness, but you get a lot of pop from the pronation rather than allowing the racket to snap straight up over your hand and snap the wrist where you're not going to get a lot of speed. Absolutely love this. The way you think of this is actually having your hand, if you're right-handed, to the right of the ball, and that naturally forces the racket to be more to the left of your hand, and that's where that powerful pronation occurs. Now, one thing I do want to notice or mention here is he does not have a tremendous amount of what we'll call long axis rotation, where that arm really turns in. You look at a Federer, his strings are facing directly off to the right. You look at a J.J. Wolf, strings are facing off to the right. You watch, you look at Isner, you look at Taylor Fritz. Fritz actually has his strings facing up at this moment. There's so much rotation and pronation and shoulder housing rotation that the strings are facing way off to the right, which is the opposite of where the strings are facing right now. He doesn't have a lot of that, which I think is really interesting. I would say he could use some of that and actually maybe gain an extra mile an hour or two. And it would just be the result of before and during contact and the natural movement where the racket would snap off to the right. Maybe this is just one serve, or maybe I caught him on a bad day here and he's not doing it. Maybe he's not trying to blast his serve as hard as he can, but I'm going to keep an eye on that in the future and see if he still has his strings facing mostly down. He's got a little bit of outward turn with the forearm and shoulder, but I would love if his strings were facing over there after he served to really be able to maximize. I can't wait for the comments like, oh my gosh, the guy serves so fast. And you say he can serve faster? Yeah. Just because he has a really fast serve doesn't mean he can't serve even faster. So I'm going to say yes, he could actually serve faster if his strings were facing off to the right when he was done. And then last, let's look at his finish. Obviously, he's going to land inside the court. That toss wasn't just low, but it was also forward. And when you lean forward, naturally your back foot kicks up because of balance, right? So he's kicking this back foot up. If he didn't kick the back foot up, he would fall over and break his nose. So all in all, an absolutely gorgeous service motion. You got to go out and film yourself serving and see what you can do just like Perricard and see where you need to improve your serve to make yours like his. So if you're a singles player and you're really frustrated with your strategy because you keep losing to opponents you feel you should be able to beat, like a pusher, then check out the Singles Playbook, where they teach you how to beat the 7 most common playing styles in recreational tennis. How to beat the pusher, counterpuncher, aggressive baseliner, serve and volleyer, Dr. Feelgood. Those are those slice and dicers, those really annoying players who put all that spin on the ball. I hate playing those players. All court players and southpaws. See, this is over 50 pages of strategy after strategy, and each page comes with a QR code. You just put your phone or tablet up over that code and up pops a video teaching you exactly how to use these strategies. So if you want to play to your strengths while exposing your opponent's weaknesses, all while avoiding common errors, then you got to check out the Singles Playbook. You can do so by clicking the link on the screen right now. Now, before I share that link to the Singles Playbook, if you're looking for new practice partners to hit with, if you're just sick of your old friends who you keep playing with and they know your game and you know their game and it's the same old thing over and over again, if you want a new challenge and to find people in your local area to test your skills against, singles, doubles, or just practice partners, check out PlayYourCourt. I've put their link in the description. I'm also going to pin it in the first comment. Look, there might be somebody who moved into town 2 weeks ago. They live a couple streets away, but you don't know they exist. They don't know you exist. This is how you find them. PlayYourCourt, link in the description, pinned in the first comment. They also have coaches who are going to help you level up your game. So click right there to check out the Singles Playbook so you can start winning more matches. Go out and film your serve and compare it side by side to Perricard. See how you can improve your game, and if you do, there's no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2MinuteTennis.net. You got this.